Hello, welcome back to another episode of The Trenches. This is crypto's #1 live stream focused on the coolest apps being built in crypto. As always, my name is Carl Vogel. I'm a general partner at Six Man Ventures, and this is an opportunity where we get to have the most important conversations in crypto. And today I am thrilled to be at the Sei office, a new office in New York City. How things have changed, where a couple of years ago, nobody had offices in New York. In fact, it was illegal to operate here. But now we're opening flagship, beautiful offices. I won't say where in the city, but if you know, you know where it is. With that, I'm joined by two fantastic guests. Justin Barrlow, who is now the executive director of the Sei Foundation. It's a new position in a newer ecosystem. So incredibly exciting time to be stepping up to an awesome challenge. We're going to dive into what does it mean, what's next for Sei, and what are some of the recent announcements that you've had. We can start to unpack those. And then we found this llama on the street. I don't get it, but here he is, Sherpa himself. He is a serial entrepreneur, a #1 app, had previously had a #1 app in the App Store, incredible founder, building in stealth, only on Sei. And so we're going to get his point of view about what he's building, the Overheard App. And as always, we're going to get a demo because the trenches are for everyone. And if we're not demoing the cool things that are being built in crypto, what are we even doing here? So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So Justin, as executive director, you have a lot of responsibility. What I love about your story in crypto is, you and I started a couple of years ago, and just to see the amount of change and growth and vision responsibility from where even both of us were 5 years ago is incredible. So tell me about this role as executive director. What types of things are you overseeing? And with that, what are you most excited for with Sei and the direction you're taking the foundation?
First, thanks for having me on. And just one quick correction I do want to make. So my title is technically executive director over here at the Sei Development Foundation, which is actually a brand new entity. One of the first, U.S. Crypto companies that you can truly say is actually based here in the U.S. And so we kicked this off recently. We've been making a really big push on kind of, revitalizing the U.S. as the home of crypto. Obviously, as regulation has kind of come to fruition here, and more changes happen on the political side. It's been a really awesome opportunity to be building in the U.S., and we wanted to, really seize that opportunity. And so Sei Development Foundation is a U.S. nonprofit dedicated to advancing open source blockchain networks like Sei. What that means in practice is I get to spend a ton of time working with founders, politicians, you name it, from across the space, and obviously getting to work with awesome founders over here like Sherpa, who are building really the future of blockchain tech and the application layer.
What is the coolest conversation you've had so far with an important person?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I will say, in general, what I found is that, and I've been in the space for a while, so for context, I've been in crypto for, at this point, and it sounds crazy to say, the much better part of a decade. It's been about 9 years. Early on, I've had conversations with folks, even sort of tangential to, the government, right? Whether it's like, legal people who had worked with politicians before, lobbyists, et cetera, years and years ago, way before Sei, and was, effectively laughed out of the room when I said that, hey, there's going to be a point when politicians actually care about crypto. Yeah. Lo and behold, now, we had a recent election that was, many think kind of swung by crypto voters. Crypto is, one of the largest sources of capital for politicians today, and whether it's through super PACs or direct donations, et cetera. And so there's been a really interesting shift. And more recently, got to spend a little bit of time, in DC, and was really excited to see that there is much more openness to potentially working with, crypto companies and ultimately trying to really push the U.S. forward from a regulatory standpoint.
Great. Did you meet El Presidente yet?
I have not met the Orange Man just yet, but I'm sure it will happen at some point.
It's going to happen. Yeah, I've been really impressed. Even New York City has now started to embrace crypto. Mayor Adams held a crypto summit. I got to go to that, and it's amazing how just a couple of years ago, we were ostracized, we were attacked, we were investigated by the New York taxation authorities at like increasingly high levels relative to the average person. And now New York's saying, we're open for business. Come set up your office here, come set up your office here, and let's build crypto in New York.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a New Yorker, so, basically born and raised here in New York. And so being able to see that kind of evolution was awesome. I mean, for those of you who remember, the bit license when it launched in New York was like, a huge change. It actually, obviously restricted some, exchanges and products from launching here and that sort of thing. But at the same time, it also recognized crypto for like really the first time of any of the sort of, population, high density states, that there was some sort of like direct legislation for crypto.
Yep.
And so to see New York kind of become this hub for crypto in America is really amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so let's talk a little bit about Sei. I mean, Sei is such a great name. Say less, say more. Like, there's a lot of, good mantras that the community can rally around, not just because it's a good name, but also because it's a really good product and ecosystem. So talk us through a little bit about what is the one-liner for Sei. Again, we have a lot of people who are in the trenches here. Trenches are for everyone, even those outside Solana. And what is the one-liner behind Sei to get people up to speed, and a couple of the things that are key pillars of Sei's success and design?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share that one-liner, and then I'll also, if it's helpful, kind of give like a really brief history of how we got here, because I think it kind of makes a lot of sense when you hear it in context. Sort of the one-liner here is Sei is combining sort of the best pieces of the two dominant ecosystems in crypto today. You've got the sort of developer environment, the tooling and infra of the EVM, right? That started on Ethereum and has now kind of spread like wildfire across, the industry, and still remains the place where you see the vast majority of developers today. And something like Solana, right? Which is extremely high performance, high throughput, and sort of all the benefits that come with that, right? Whether it's low fees, whether it is, again, that sort of, low latency, or high throughput. And so, Sei at its core, combining the best of Solana and Ethereum. And if you have to remember one thing from this podcast, that would be one good thing to take away.
Cool. And I remember Sei in particular has really fast block times.
Yes.
Right? Like, what are those block times?
Yeah. So I think this is actually really interesting to me. It's something that I particularly, have been excited about, and I spent a lot of time explaining to folks, right? There's two things that, I think matter in crypto when you're talking about speed, right? There's block times, right? Which is kind of the metric that most teams tend to use. And then there's finality, right? And so many teams have fast block times with slower finality. Some teams, right, focus more on, finality versus block times. For us here at Sei, we have incredibly fast block times, right? So 400 milliseconds. But what's interesting is the finality is that same 400 milliseconds. And so what that means is if you're building an app, it's not just a matter of, hey, I submitted the transaction and now it's going out to, to be confirmed, but actually, hey, I submitted the transaction and it's done, right? So irreversible on the chain within that 400 millisecond time period.
Yeah.
And so what we've seen, for Sei, and we'll obviously be spending a lot of time talking about this today, is this really makes things like consumer apps, whether it's games, social networks, or obviously even things like DeFi, right, AI, et cetera, much more performant, and obviously, increases the sort of surface area for people to build awesome products, given that you now don't have to wait 5, 10, 15 seconds for things to be confirmed, and they're confirmed in what is the blink of an eye, 400 milliseconds.
Yeah, so that's great. So I know you know the pitch down to why build on Sei, but I'm curious from Sherpa. So you looked at a number of different blockchains. So just give us, we're going to demo Overheard, so we don't want to go too deep here, but just give us the high level of Overheard, and then what led you to build on Sei?
Sure. So Overheard is a one-liner. It's an anonymous, location-based social network. And in order to power a social network, fast block times and basically instantaneous speeds are just table stakes. You need that if you're going after normies. Sei was the most compelling value proposition to do this from speed, but not only that, but cost of execution. And to do anything at scale, Sei was orders of magnitude cheaper than the next best solution out there.
Yeah, just to add one quick thing onto that for those who are not too familiar. So Sei today has fees that are, to this point, orders of magnitude cheaper than even the other performance chains, right? And so It's not just, hey, this is cheaper than Ethereum or cheaper than Bitcoin or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Say today is around 10,000 transactions for about 4 cents.
Wow.
So to put that in perspective, that is 100 and in some cases 1,000 times cheaper than something nearby competitors.
I need to do the math on that and figure out like how many transactions is that to buy 1 cup of coffee? Like how many cups of coffee can how many transactions can I run for the equivalent cup of coffee? So it's fast, it's cheap.
It's cheap.
Right? And so how many transactions, like, you have a number, how many users do you have now on the platform? Like, you're still beta, you're still like growing, but like.
Yeah, so it's still in beta. We launched a month ago.
Yeah.
This past weekend we peaked at 6,000 daily active users.
Okay.
Any given day around 5,000 though. So it's pretty consistent. And the key thing is we're sponsoring all transactions for our users because it is a social application. You can't have a user press sign. It doesn't work if you're going after normies.
Yep.
So we're sponsoring around 100,000 transactions per day, and it costs us a couple bucks. So it's technically cheaper than AWS in a way.
There you go. That's amazing. So what I think Justin also used to work in the venture space. So we've been looking at consumer products for years, right? And I want to start with you, Sherpa, on like consumer, because you had a really successful or series of successful consumer products outside of crypto. And then you're like, oh, maybe I should go build in crypto. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, you shouldn't do that. What are you thinking? But I'm curious, like, what do you envision your app being, and maybe in particular, what are the elements of that you feel like most crypto apps miss today?
Sure. So technically, we're building the category called SocialFi, and every social application in crypto to date has really been focused on like finance first, social second. Well, we're flipping that around, where we're really focused on the social aspect first, and finance comes second. So it's free to use, 100% for users, which opens the door to scalability. All other applications basically hit you with a paywall up front. So if you're trying to get your brother or a normie on the street to use it, it's just a huge layer of friction. And then the finance comes second in our aspect. So we reward users basically for capturing attention and their time. So we have an advertising model in the application. Brands are paying for ad space, and then users are compensated based off rewards from advertisers bidding on their posts, essentially.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Because I think it's interesting where my general view on crypto is people, and I'm curious to see if you guys do this. There's a lot of apps out there. And with that, it's hard to get people's attention. And with that, people are engaging with apps to generally like make money or to get famous. And so, for example, people are on Instagram and they're creators and they're trying to get famous, right? But they're not making money on the platform really. They need to make it through all platform deals and other things. Likewise, people are trading on DeFi and Pump and all these platforms, and like they're most of the time, like especially on DeFi or Robinhood or any of these, you're not really getting famous on the platform. You're just making money, and then you might follow an account like what we saw with the recent Hyperliquid trader James, where like he gets famous on X, but like he actually makes his money on a different platform or loses his money in this situation. But like crypto enables you to do both those things together. So your platform, like you can be social and grow a following, or I guess not grow a following, you're sort of the antithesis to that. But like generally, like you have the opportunity to at least have your posts get famous and blown up, while also, at some point making money on some of those as well, or creating markets or other things. So like generally fame and fortune combined in crypto in a unique way on platform that you can't do in Web2. And like that's really guided a lot of my investment thesis and that of our firm. And I think it's led to some really good outcomes. Are you seeing a lot of apps in like the combining fame and fortune space? Is that a framework you subscribe to, or how do you think about consumer and what we can and should be building in crypto?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is something I'd like to see more of, right? I think you kind of hit the nail, right on the head with the sort of like background there, which is that most apps in crypto today on the consumer side, whether it is games, whether it's social networks, whatever it may be, are finance first, right? Like people are playing the game because of the token. They're playing the game because they think they can make money on it, or using the social network app because of that. Oh, maybe there's an airdrop upcoming. There has been very little to date in crypto where people just genuinely like and enjoy the product, and then, you happen to get some reward on the other side of it, right? And like a great example of this in Web2 maybe be something more like X, right? Where it's like, hey, we are all pretty active on X. I currently I'm pretty active on it. I'm not someone who's, part of the sort of, payment program through X, and I still use it, right? Because I like it. Yeah. In crypto, we've had very little of that. And so for me, having, been in the space for a while, having seen a lot of consumer products, whether it was here or in my time previously when I was at Solana Labs, I thought that was one of the things that was lacking. And one of the things that got me so excited about what they're building over here with Overheard, because it was a model that didn't rely on people just hoping that they would get an airdrop, or just hoping that that token associated with it would pump. It's actually something people just enjoy using. Yeah. And hey, you get this added bonus on top, which is potentially getting rewards, being able to moderate for rewards, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and what's cool about crypto, especially in the type of app that you're building, is crypto is global from day one. So a lot of social networks start in particular in specific areas, and if you want to do payments and rewards, you got to, let's see, if you start in the US, you're going to be using a certain set of financial partners, but then if you have somebody in another part of the world, you might need to onboard another set of financial partners. And so you have this, to reach a global audience with any sort of consumer product, you actually need an enormous patchwork of payment rails and solutions that you need to orchestrate behind the scenes to do, in some cases, very simple payments, versus any sort of payments that you do on Overheard can just happen directly on-chain in a shared single database.
Correct. Yeah, our product would not be possible without crypto rails. Yep. And because of Sei, it is possible. Like 3 years ago, this type of experience wouldn't be possible, just from the transaction fees or the economic feasibility of it all. And that's where crypto UX has just come such a long way in the past couple of years. And I think you're about to see a big wave of consumer apps coming just because of the potentials of net new use cases they unlock, specifically in the world of, in our case, social.
Got it. And maybe for you, as we're talking about consumer, is there any other categories of consumer apps that you want to see more of on Sei? And maybe just say, call to developers. This is what we want, and this is how we're here to help. What are you looking to see? And then also I want to transition to what is it like building on Sei? I mean, it's an EVM network, so presumably it's easier to, if you're building on another chain, to move it to EVM versus going to a move-based network or an SVM-based network or something else. So, what are you looking to see, and what's the development experience like?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think in general, would love to continue seeing, more social. I think, if you think about the Web 2, world, there are no categories of successful applications where there are not a number of teams in there, right? It's hey, you've got Facebook, and you have, in their case, they own Instagram, but you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, right? You've got this sort of diversity of experiences, right? And so while I obviously love Overheard, and I think they're going to absolutely crush it, and they already have been so far, what the best thing would be is a healthy ecosystem of sort of diverse different applications that cater to different audiences, and ultimately, can kind of fill these gaps in what people want to see. So social is one, right? Games is one that we've spent a lot of time on over here at Sei, and sort of the Sei Development Foundation. I think what you've seen in the ecosystem is sort of this relative, let's call it overselling of the gaming narrative, right? So you had gaming was really hot, then all of a sudden some of the major gaming projects, die, let's say 2022 to 2024. And then what do you know, gaming is coming back, and there's a lot of games building. Yeah. And this time the quality of games is just so much higher than it was in previous cycles. Yeah. And I think that's not unique to gaming. I think everything in crypto is extremely cyclical, beyond even sort of market cycles within those particular verticals. Yeah. Right? And so social was another great example, right? You had some really breakout, social apps of the sort of previous years, and now competition is less than it was. Right? And so for us, I think, where we find sort of maximal utility is in these areas that they are relatively sort of oversold, right? People are sort of over the hype, right? The hype has passed, but yet there's enormous opportunity to build things that actually scale and can be really useful for people. So things like games fall into that category. Social, consumer payments is one that I still would love to see more products in, right? Sort of on-chain media companies, right? There's all these opportunities where there are enormous real-world businesses that could potentially be brought into crypto rails, just a matter of executing it the right way.
Yeah. I'm actually a big fan of games. I do think it's oversold wrongly, and we are starting to see more really interesting games. And a category I'm particularly excited about is hyper casual. Yes. So there's a pretty cool company, Pump.fun, that's building, and basically it's you vibe code a game or an experience. You can do it within 5 minutes, and then basically deploy it, and then people can interact with it. And you can imagine almost, it's like, we started with, it's basically like content that you can engage with. So it's kind of like a continuation of like memes. So we started with just a picture, then we moved to these NFT collections, then we moved to maybe specific experiences built around a meme in order to engage the community. But like having something that goes from static to GIF to then like an actual like mini game that you might play with, it's like pretty cool. Like I remember I was on it, and there was this one where it was back when like the Fed was all over the place with their strategy, and it was like BJ Powell, and it's like, you see headlines going on. It's like, oh, what's going on with the economy? What are you going to do? Print money or do something else? And it's like just like a one-time game I played for 2 minutes, but I just remember that experience viscerally, being like, wow, they customized this to the exact thing going on today, and somebody launched a game around it. And over time, you can start monetizing those. And again, hyper-casual games, people aren't going to be investing thousands of dollars. But if you play and win a game and you win 50 cents as part of a 30-second experience, like, okay, well, that actually starts to become fun and add up over time. So hyper-casual games. If you're building hyper-casual games, come talk to Sei, come talk to 6 Minute Ventures. I definitely want to learn more and see what you're building in the space.
Yeah, actually, before you even move on there, it's funny you mentioned that. Sei today has seen this sort of surge in users over recent months. So went from a few thousand daily actives to, I think, last I checked, it was 700K yesterday or 2 days ago. And the vast majority of those users are coming in through games. They're coming in through games that a lot of them tend to be more on the hyper-casual side, mobile first. And a lot of them are coming from Web 2, integrating Web 3 elements, and progressively kind of going deeper down the Web 3 rabbit hole, rather than trying to start a game and bootstrap it from zero. And what do you know? When it's a hyper-casual game that people play every day, but maybe only play for 10 minutes, 15 minutes here and there, versus needing to really immerse themselves, it is much more likely for people to actually be easily onboarded and to actually have retention. And so, largest one that I think we have on Sei is a game called Hot Spring. I think it just passed something like 7 million downloads on iOS and Android. And these are just massive numbers that we just don't have much of in crypto.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll definitely check out Hot Spring. I'm going to go check it out after this. Maybe we'll have them on in a future episode. And as always, we'll do a demo. All right, well, speaking of demos, is there anything, before we jump into Overheard, or at a deeper level, is there anything else we want to cover on Sei? I mean, we talk about Sei Giga? Do we want to talk about any other announcements before we start to transition to Sherpa?
Yeah, I'm happy to give a little context on Sei Giga, and you can probably tee it up for kind of the future of where these guys are hopefully going. Sei Giga is an upcoming upgrade to the Sei network that will dramatically improve performance. Right, so we've been talking a lot about performance on this podcast. Sei today, fastest, cheapest chain on the EVM, and this will take Sei much further. This will mean something like 250,000 transactions per second. The metric that we've really focused on this North Star is 5 gigagas a second, which is more of a measure of throughput, right? And accounts for complex transactions versus just TPS as a number more broadly. And does it with the same or even improved, latency numbers. So what that means is that you have all these really interesting things that are opened up. If you have something like Overheard that has many of its sort of components living fully on chain, with something like 250,000 TPS, you can actually run these things on chain with basically no lag, right? No latency, and doing so for an audience of tens of millions of people who are all engaging at the same time. And that's just something that's not, really possible today in crypto. And I, recently put out a blog post, from sort of the Sei Development Foundation's blog, talking about how there's this idea of sort of innovation begets opportunity, right? And so, when you have something like a Sei Giga upgrade, you have applications that are introduced that maybe we're not even thinking about today, right? And the simple example is maybe like, hey, 20 years ago, the idea of us all doing meetings on Zoom was like a science experiment, right? Like there was no way we were going to get there. Bandwidth was too small. Like there was no way that we'd ever be able to get like high quality video for every person, 100% of the time. And yet here we are today, and now there's apps like Zoom that have like taken over the world, right? And so I think for us, seeing Sei Giga launch and then seeing all the interesting applications that maybe we can't even imagine today, but founders like Sherpa and others are able to take advantage of, will just open up the doors for new products in crypto that like we never even thought would be possible in general, and let alone on on-chain rails.
That's really great. All right, well, let's jump into Overheard. So I first met Sherpa, it must have been last year. I mean, I think in the fall last year, and I heard the vision, and I was like, it's an antithesis to many other types of social networks. And I think anything that is contrarian has a very, very high shot of impact once you start to get that initial community going, because it's so different than anything else out there. So maybe talk a little bit about what inspired you to build Overheard, and what is the main user experience, and then jump us into a demo.
Sure. So it's an anonymous location-based social platform, essentially.
Anonymous location-based social platform.
Exactly. So anti-social in a sense there. So an example of, before getting to demo, is if we open up the application right now and we're in New York City, we would have a live feed of everything within a 10-mile radius of us. It's very popular in areas where it's not as dense a population. So the feed is basically people you know around you.
Yeah.
Very popular in schools, colleges, high schools, etc. And the thought behind it all, and the inspiration is, and why make it anonymous, is how do you give every single person an equal voice? And if you strip away their identity, the class clown is competing with the nerd in the back of the classroom. So anonymous gives you that open forum where everyone has the same chance. In crypto Twitter, Instagram, you have your KOLs that just control the narratives, but there's the little guys that want to be heard, but they can't. So if you make it anonymous, the little guys can be heard.
Yeah, and it's purely then based on the quality or the funniness rather than just who tweeted. I mean, I know it's you see this where somebody tweets something, and all of a sudden, if another actor in the space retweets it, or let's say takes the same idea, maybe polishes it in a different way, all of a sudden it's a Giga Chat idea, and so people have been saying this for months, and there's no credit there. So now it's hey, the idea itself is all that matters, not the pre-existing social context.
Exactly, and because it is stored 100% on chain, you do have verifiable proof that you were first to say this idea, if that was part of it.
So what's the type of in the early users you have? Who are the type of people that are gravitating it, and why are they gravitating towards it? Why post it there versus on X or Insta or any of these other things?
Sure. So it's often a place where people will share their thoughts that they're not comfortable sharing on another platform with their identity behind it. And even on X, where you have pseudo-anons. Those pseudo-anons have personalities, they have beliefs associated with it. So if I was a pseudo-anon, let's say I was a big ETH maxi and I wanted to bull post Solana, I couldn't say that on X, otherwise my followers would just attack me.
Yeah.
This could be a place for mistakes. Most of our users, though, are not your traditional crypto Twitter user. They're normies. And our distribution channel for this has been going after just people where they are. And that's TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. It's not your traditional marketing. And I think that's why we found some initial success, is because of thinking about it fundamentally different than most other crypto projects out there.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I have a lot of our founders that are starting to experiment in TikTok. And it's a different game. I think people there's a way to grow crypto users. It's a playbook, people can follow it. Not all of them are going to win, but it's very clear. TikTok is this foreign world to most people in crypto. So how is it? What's some of the insights that you're willing to share on starting to crack the TikTok machine?
Sure. So that's the world I've lived in most of my life, is the normie growth hacking, not the crypto Twitter growth hacking. And a lot of it is experimentation. You just have to try lots of things. And it's very much leaning into the things that work and scaling back from the things that don't. Almost it's really throwing spaghetti at a wall.
Yeah.
And
so are you working mainly with is this we're experimenting by bringing on different types of creators, or is it more about I'm bull posting or trying experiments from my core X account and your Overheard X account?
It's not the bull posting at all. It's very much high volume UGC type content, working with influencers and then scaling paid behind what converts well with organic.
Got it.
And it's very high volume. So it's as my job as a founder transitioned from being a nerd writing code to now I'm a full-time marketer in the TikTok trenches.
Yeah.
not the crypto.
What's the is there any famous creators or influencers you've worked with, and why?
For this specific project?
No, in general.
No.
If you've been in the game for a long time.
I once worked with Bad Baby back in the day, the Catch Me Outside girl. So that's probably the most ridiculous. That was for a live streaming product, actually. But that was the most random. But so the world then was a little bit different than now. The big influencers that already made it are typically not high ROI.
Okay.
It's the little undiscovered person is who's worth paying from our experience, and that's a little bit of marketing alpha.
Got it.
And TikTok gives you the ability to go viral organically, much more so than other platforms to date.
It's almost like if you took X, I mean, I don't know if this is the right spectrum, but I'm just digesting and thinking, it's like you have X on one end where it's like entrenched social networks at play. And then, TikTok, the reason people liked it was you could break out as somewhat more of a normie. And then it's not anonymous, and, everything you say can be tied to you, but still, at least there's an opportunity to penetrate through the veil that you weren't able to before. And then, almost you're like pushing that even further, where now you can do that, but also remain anonymous while you're making this happen.
Yes, and like TikTok right now is from a growth is like the golden era for mobile apps. Like people are starting to catch on to it. 10 years ago, X was actually the golden era for apps, and content was pushed through meme pages. You had meme pages, so like you would think like Campus Crushes or just theme pages, and X eventually locked it all down and killed it for a lot of growth hackers. That was my main distribution channel back in the day.
Wow.
And TikTok now feels like X did 10 years ago, which for people who have done it before, a lot of my like social app buddies we're very excited right now that we can run back the playbooks we did back in the day.
That's great. And is there any, how do you see this evolving over the next year? And you kind of touched a little bit on it, but like, how do you see this sort of user acquisition funnel through social media evolving over the next year?
Sure. So right now we're really focused on international growth because it allows us to test the waters with our product, work on scale issues, and kind of operate in stealth for the main reason too. Figure out what works and then bring everything to the US and replicate the strategies.
I think that'd be a pretty cool thing. So it's funny, like a lot of foundations have a lot of money, but I feel like very few of them have found a way to productively spend that money. Like, Ethereum is like way overpaying people, and like they have this massive treasury, and it hasn't really been effectively utilized. There's this inner cabal, it seems, that gets all the grants and recommends people for the grants. And obviously the strategy has not worked. But even like, say Solana, Avalanche, they're varying degrees, but they all have a lot of money. It'd be really interesting to have a foundation. I'm just positing here, being like, you can tell me why this is a good or bad idea, but hey, we have like 2 or 3 people that understand social media growth hacking as experts, and they're part of staff. And maybe you're starting to see a little bit of this where like Solana brought on Nikita as an advisor, but maybe you have people more entrenched in the organization. Like, hey, we're going to help you reach these people, and like conducting seminars on growth hacking, because it's honestly, there's so many good builders of good insights, but like getting that first 1,000 or 10,000 users is I would say the hardest part. And then once the flywheel gets going, it does start to grow organically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's something I've thought a lot about. And we were talking before about kind of vibe coding, right? Things like Pump.fun. And, my take, and at this point, I don't even think it's a hot take anymore, is that, over time, as it becomes basically easier and easier to build applications and infrastructure because of things like ChatGPT and Cursor and DevFun, and you name it, what is like sort of the differentiator between one project and another, right? Like if I can see you building something and then go and build an exact clone of it in 24 hours, then how do I separate myself as a builder, right? And ultimately, I think what is going to kind of happen here is it's really going to circle back to the founders. It's going to circle back to sort of the go-to-market and growth strategy, right? And that is going to be sort of the differentiator when it comes to one app versus another. And for me, it's super interesting being someone who is relatively non-technical and thinking about sort of the last, let's call it 2 decades or so, where everyone and their mothers was trying to go study computer science, right, and kind of go this way and work for a FANG company, right, and go about it that way. And now you kind of have this shift back towards kind of like fundamentally knowing how to run a business, manage things like Runway, do the go-to-market, do things like marketing, and this has started to matter more and more versus just purely, hey, like I have some tech differentiator, right? Because the moat is only a moat for as long as basically someone hasn't seen it and copied it. And so the question is, how do you make something that's non-replicable? And code is at the end of the day ones and zeros, right? So you can replicate that. What you can't replicate is the founders that you have, their personalities, their ability to speak to crowds, right? Where they are and being able to meet people, things like this that are ultimately very tangible and have made an increasing impact on crypto in recent years.
I agree. I can agree more with that. And it's like we need to be increasingly entrepreneurial as a society. Like the classic, you show up 8 to 5 at 5 days a week. Is those jobs are just like depreciating or they're going away. And instead, like people are now automatically hustling another, like a side hustle is a thing. Like society's kind of struggling a little bit if people have to do a side hustle in order to like make it and make ends meet. And I think those trends are just only going to continue. And so, being an engineering speed in such demand, you see the charts of like available engineering jobs, and it's just plummeted. And instead, like that is, and the reason is obviously AI, but it's like code can compile. You can unit test it, verify it's working, it compiles, but like you can't compile if somebody's an engaging person or not. If they have good ideas, if they're able to motivate a team, that doesn't compile in the way that AI can like replicate, right? And so I do think that's a really, really important thing, and it gives power back to creators. We're here experimenting in the trenches, and we'll see how it goes. But let's pull up a demo.
Cool. I think I requested to share my screen.
Is yours DK?
That's me.
All right.
Allow double echo. All right, cool. Echo's gone. And then share.
I have to lower your mic a little bit just so we can hear as you.
Yeah, I gotta look down through this eyeball here. All right, we in?
We're in. We're live.
All right. So for those who are looking here, this is a web app of Overheard. Most 95% of our usage is on the native apps. So iOS and Android store, basically just type in Overheard. Depending on where you are in the world, you're either going to have a really good feed or a really bad feed. But basically, so this is a feed of what's going on around us here. You can refresh it. You can see some alpacas talking, sharing their thoughts anonymously.
Yeah, I could say llamas this whole time.
It's not
alpacas, right?
They get confused.
They get confused.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guys. You can come in here, you can upvote. So right there with that single click was an on-chain transaction, fully on-chain, us sponsoring everything behind the scenes. Come in here, be like, yo, same thing, stored on-chain.
And are you optimistically assuming those will go through from a development point of view? Because like I clicked and it seemed like it already went through, and obviously it's going to take up to 400 milliseconds max. Now that's really fast.
So
that's like a very good user experience. But do you optimistically, from a UI perspective, make it go through, and then if there's an error, you'll let the user know?
It's exactly. So it's like that was synced, and then if I go in and type here and be like, yo, again, the color shows right there, so that's the pending state.
Oh,
and
that's actually really nice. That's a nice way to do it.
So that's like a loading animation that is the final. Now it's final.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the upload has a similar reaction to it on the mobile app, not the web app.
Yeah. And as a user, if I upload, I guess, is the goal that if I upload something early and then it grows, am I almost like more of a trendsetter, and I make it more rewards? Like, is that an important part of the app?
So that does not exist right now, but that's something we're building. Basically, the curators will then be rewarded for curating the top content early.
Yeah.
So every post right now is not a token. That is changing.
Yep.
The users will really have no idea from that. They will just be airdrop rewards based off revenue associated with it.
Got it.
So you can't see it here because I'm on a privacy-specific browser.
Yep.
But there are like tiny ads within the application. So like normally, up here, you could have a banner from Circle Advertising, and then the user that posted this would be compensated directly for the revenue attributed to the post.
Wow. Okay. So then the last question, of course, in all of this is like, where's the revenue coming from?
Mm-hmm. So that's something different than other social files. Like the revenues come by brand advertisers paying for the real estate. It's not coming from users. It's not coming from trading fees. So which, to my belief, is more sustainable because you're not extracting from your customer. You're actually just giving for rewarding their time.
Yeah.
And we're taking anyone that's willing to bid on our users' space. So right now we have a variety that are coming in through different crypto-specific ad networks, and they're paying pretty decent. So we give out around a couple $1,000 every week to our users, all as USDC, not as an actual token.
That's great. And it's just by them viewing and then engaging on ads.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's, or not even engaging with the ads, it's just the ads are there, and then the advertisers are paying us, which then goes to the reward pool to the user specifically.
Got it. And then how is there, if there is a governance token or some sort of universal token part of this, how do you, like, I think you're taking a very Web 2.5 approach. You're saying, hey, like, we're not just going to sell the token or to give stuff to users. Like, we're actually trying to think constructively here, create long-term value, no Ponzu, right? And so, like, what is the feature token though going to do as part of this?
Sure. So everything here from the text to the upvotes are on chain.
Yeah.
So like the grander vision here is to build a decentralized social graph at scale.
Yeah.
There's been attempts at it in Web3 to date. No one, in my mind, has done it successfully.
Yeah.
Or at a level of scale that's worth building on top of for any serious Web2 developer. So that's our goal. Is like we believe that this will be the foundation for many apps to launch on top of is a true decentralized graph. Like we have 1 month in, 6,000 daily active users. We want to be at millions. And me and my team have done that before, so we have a pretty high level of confidence we can do it again.
And that's cool. And so, and then we're going to start wrapping up, but like, so I'm anonymous on here and I've posted before. It's pretty cool. I put some like, crypto takes. And by the way, they have, to your point, you have a lot of normie users, and I put something like, one chain versus another chain, or something about, some proposal. People are like, what are they talking about? So I'm whole posting crypto in a pen that has, a bunch of other people in it. But like over time, even if I'm anonymous, will I start to get like gold status or certain part, like, you're super active, you're super influential on the platform, and you kind of like repeatedly have good takes over many different types of takes. Is that like,
so you would be
a graph that I can take with me somehow?
It could, yeah. So it's if you're willing to basically log in with Overheard on another platform, you could give access to your graph to another platform.
Yeah.
So they could see, oh, Carl, you received 100,000 upvotes on this platform. You're probably loyal. You upvoted a post about crypto, so maybe we'll automatically throw you into crypto group. You interact with this other person anonymously. Maybe we'll suggest them for you to follow. There's all these interesting connection points you can create from like pseudo-anonymous content here.
Got it. Well, that is really cool. Anything else on Overheard we want to cover?
No, that's it. We're growing pretty quick, and no one on CT knows us, so give us a follow-up.
I love it. I really do like this thesis, in that it is completely different than every other type of social product I've engaged with. And it's going to work or it doesn't. But I'm going to be using it. I ask everyone out there, go check it out. Go download the Overheard app. Is there anything, how can people get on the beta? Do they have to go to your X account and then be able to get it from there?
No, so if you go directly to the app stores, you can just type in Overheard and it'll show up.
Okay. So
one key thing there, guys, is Overheard, no A. So Overheard.
Yeah.
I've had some folks make that mistake.
Yeah. Heard of animals, heard of alpacas.
Heard of alpacas. They're not llamas. Not llamas. Okay. So if there's one thing you take away, Sei is really cool, and alpacas are not llamas.
That's all you need to know.
Don't F it up. All right, well, this has been a really fun chat. I'm so glad that we got to do this in the new office. In fact, we are the first live stream from this new office. I'm looking out over the New York City skyline right now, and it's absolutely incredible. So thanks so much for the time. I'm going to keep up to date on what's going on in Sei, keep looking at teams in the Sei ecosystem. Go check it out if you haven't already. And like, what's the easiest way for people to get into Sei? Is there a certain wallet that people tend to use, a certain way to bridge? If I'm a user, to go start playing around in Sei, what's the 2 or 3 easiest ways to get into it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Overheard is a really easy way because you don't need anything. Yeah. You can just get started with literally just a Google account or Facebook account, whatever it may be. In terms of Sei, there are a few major wallets. So we have a native wallet called Compass that a lot of folks use. We have MetaMask as an EVM chain. And then one wallet, besides names like Rabby and others on the EVM, that has gotten a lot of traction recently, particularly for the games in the ecosystem, is something called the Sei Global Wallet. And again, allows you to sign on with your socials or like a phone number or something like that, and get started without any existing crypto experience. And so the vast majority of users today for these new social applications are actually, social and gaming, I should say, are coming in. They don't have an existing wallet. They don't even need to worry about creating one. You're just signing in with a username and password, or with your phone, or with one of your social media accounts. So it's really seamless to get started. and tons of apps that you can test out once you are ready to go.
There we go. Say less, do more. All right. Thanks a lot for everyone on the live stream. I'm so excited to upload this recording. Again, apologies for starting late with the issues with Cloudflare that took out Pump. Until next time, we have some exciting chats next week lined up that I'll be sharing shortly. All right. Have a good one. The trenches are for everyone.
Thanks, guys.